Welcome back to the Subconscious Sculptor, where power isn't performed, it's remembered, and influence gets rewired from the root. Today's episode is for the woman who is tired of shape-shifting for applause. The leader who's grown resentful of her own brand, and the visionary who can't tell if she's magnetic or just manic from being on all the time. Because here's the truth. If your magnetism is performative, your influence will be manipulative. And I know that's hard. And I don't mean manipulative in a malicious, intentional way, but in the self abandoning, let me be digestible kind of way that leaves you overgiving, underseen, and energetically bankrupt. So today, let's strip it back and let's get into the real mechanics of authentic influence. First things first, influence has nothing to do with being liked. Let's say that again. Influence has nothing to do with being liked. It has everything, everything to do with being resonant. But here's what happens. Most women, especially high achievers with big missions, you build your visibility on performance rather than presence. Because we learned early on that approval equals access. And access to safety, access to success, access to love. So we built these brands on being palatable rather than powerful. The messaging typically edited to be liked, the aesthetic curated for acceptance, the tone smooth, which erases the edges that make you unforgettable. And the problem? The more you try to control how you're perceived, the more you abandon the truth that would have actually set you and your people free. And you end up imprisoned in a role that doesn't even fit. And it's probably why you have this desire, probably looped on repeat, to burn it all down. But that's not what we want to do. So let's first talk about burnout. Because burnout, not the kind that comes from working too hard. When you love what you do, it doesn't necessarily feel like work. And I hear you. It sounds cliche, but it's true. When you're doing something you absolutely love, it's not going to feel like work. And you know how it's true? Think back to childhood. Or if you're a parent, think about your children. They could get lost in building Legos. They lose track of time outside building a fort, digging in the dirt, playing, having fun. Even though we're probably teaching them something in those moments, they're not feeling like it's work. It's the same thing for you. A lot of us, we just forgot how to play. But we'll get to that in a second. The kind of burnout I'm talking about today, it comes from being too filtered. And I know you know what I'm talking about. It's that lump in the back of your throat, right? It's performing confidence when you're collapsing on the inside, smiling through the resentment, over delivering so no one questions your value. Listen, that's not influence, that's survival. Those are survival patterns that we learned so that we could, well, survive, get by, build. Because at a young age, you were probably taught you were too much, or you were probably told you were too much. What are you doing? You need to settle down. You need to be humble, right? I mean, it's not the same messaging we give our men. But again, I don't want to get lost on a tangent. I want today to really, I want you to see performance, power, and what it really looks like. When you're coming from survival, it's going to feel uncomfortable and unsafe to be seen for your truth. I just want that caveat to be in here. I want you to know that that's normal. But unfortunately, if your branding has been built on the burnout, your visibility is really going to start feeling like emotional labor. And that's why you get into this space, this overlooping of, I'm just going to burn it all down. You know what? Forget about it. You don't lead, you perform. You're not inspiring, you're convincing. And eventually your body will call you out on the bullshit. And you'll, again, want to just burn it all down to the ground just so you can feel free again. But I want to invite you to think differently. So let's flip the script and reclaim our expression without necessarily an ego death. Because authentic expression, it's not chaos. It's not too much. It's not even the unfiltered word vomit. It's not throwing strategy out the window and just being yourself, free flowing, while hoping the algorithm does its thing. No, no, no. No, no. Authentic expression is coded with conviction. You speak identity first. You're rooted in self-trust because unapologetic, it's regulated. Sounds counterintuitive, right? You think when you're unapologetic, can't even get the whole word out. I'm like fired up about this. But when you're unapologetic, you feel like it's that wild energy. And it is wild. But I want you to think controlled fire, controlled wild. It's within the safety of your system. And you don't even need to kill your ego to be real. You get to integrate it. You get to integrate it into your identity so that when you do speak, it lands. Not because it's perfect, but because it's true. It's resonant. You can even feel it right now while we're talking about this. That's what that will feel like when you step in and reclaim your true expression. Because your people, they don't need you to be relatable, right? We've been taught that, but it's not true. It's not true. What your people need is for you to be real enough that they can recognize themselves in your truth. Not your trauma dump, not your over editing, your truth, the real, the raw. The one that you're probably thinking, like, damn, I want to say this, but you don't. Or if you do, you say a watered down, diluted, filtered version of it. But real influence, let me tell you what real influence feels like. It's clean. It's precise. It's energetically potent without the exhaustion. You don't feel drained from speaking because you're not leaking. Do you know what I'm saying? You're not over explaining yourself because you trust that the intelligence of the ones you're meant to serve, you trust their intelligence gets it. That's a whole nother level of trust, right? Which is rooted in your identity. You speak with clarity, not for applause, because your voice remembers who you are. Your voice remembers who you are. And that is when you become unforgettable because you're no longer trying to be understood by everyone. You're here to be remembered by the right ones. And that is huge. I want you to write that down as your mantra, as your daily your your daily saying to yourself when you're coming into your workspace, your work time. You are not trying to be understood by everybody. because you're here to be remembered by the right ones. If you follow me anywhere across social, you've probably heard me say before, but if not, if we're new to each other, I'm Chaitali Desai, host of The Subconscious Sculptor. I'm not for everyone, and not everyone is for me. Really root that in, embody that. There's so much power when you accept this. So much power because you start to move in a way that you know that the right person is going to find you no matter what. Which again comes down to being rooted in your identity, being so solid in how you trust yourself. Here's what I want you to reflect on this week, and I'll drop it in the show notes after also. Where have you been performing power just to stay palatable? Where are you diluting or positioning your truth just so you're liked? And where are you believing you need to be understood in order to be chosen? When you start to go through these prompts, you're going to feel the angst of it, the discomfort of it. I'm going to invite you to lean in even more. Even more. Here's why. Because your influence isn't going to be coming from being liked. It comes from being anchored in your truth, in identity, in integrity. Take the time and excavate it. Because when you do, you're going to find the treasure and you're going to find almost like a key that's going to unlock, well, your truth, your true expression. So if this landed, I'm going to invite you not to sit with it, sculpt with it, take this into your content, into your brand voice, into your leadership presence. Reclaim your expression. Reclaim your expression. And if you're ready to build a visibility ecosystem that does not require self-abandonment, you already know the Mind Sculpt Studio is where we unlearn the performance and we rewire the power. And no matter what, take those power prompts and really reflect on them. Because once you start to see where you're diluting yourself, you can adjust. You can start to reprogram. You're not here to be digestible. You're here to be disruptive. But in order to be disruptive, I want you to be radically honest with yourself first. This is the key to unlocking your expression, your authentic expression. So don't just sit on it. Definitely sculpt with it. And listen, until next time, I'm Chaitali Desai, and I want you to stay sculpted, stay seen, and speak from the truth that doesn't flinch.